listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
So last night, visiting our friend, our pod friend. Is that right? Pod friend? It sounds like she came out of a pod. Friend of the pod.
Yep, no, our pod friend.
Friend of the podcast.
Friend of the podcast. Yes, Bridget Watson was at her house for a little after work, have some Mexican food and check around the channels. And no matter what else was on, we found ourselves, watching Sex and the City. I mean,
Like the original TV series? Or
yes, the original TV series. And it's like watching it with a point. So and her sister Maddie was there too. And so the three of us were watching it just to go and to say, look, that's where Carrie is so awful. Carrie sucks. Carrie is the worst friend. She's awful. And now I feel like I watch it with an agenda, kind of like to see if I can, there are dated references. There are places where it's really bad and makes you cringe. And then there are parts where you're like, oh, that's why I like this show. But we, I think all of us hate watched the Just Like That.
So I finally finished almost all of it, but I have one episode left because I was watching it with my cousin Kamiko. We ran out of time. And so I have one episode left and I'm going back for season 2.
Oh, I'll be back.
Like I'll be back. I can't.
But so, Lisa, have you found that your favorite character or the character you most identify with has changed since you originally watched the series?
Because I think at first, a lot of people, and it's the way the show is designed, that you would feel like a Carrie just because she was a cool writer and the story's more about her. And, we play the game about Big and Aiden. And now I have decided that there's no way to decide Big or Aiden because Aiden and Big are like the two halves of one man.
Well, at least one's dead.
Yes, that's true. But you see what I mean, though? It's like they took a man and cut him in half and gave him the qualities of two different. And so it's impossible to decide because it's like that chocolate bar. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. And
putting aside the absolutely horrific allegations. Well, I can't put it aside.
No, don't put it aside.
I will say the really horrific allegations against Chris Noth have really ruined Big for me. I was always actually quite pro Big. I did not care for Aiden that much. I didn't think that Carrie treated him well, and I don't think that Big treated Carrie that well, et cetera, et cetera. Like, there was lots of stuff happening all over the place. But I ultimately just thought that Big's character, you could observe measurable growth in him as a person between the first episode and the last episode of the series. And especially when he, obviously they write this as a winning line for all of the people who have watched the show for the friendship. But when he gets a chance to sort of summarize the show as saying, you three are the loves of her life, not me, he's right. And, that's what we all sort of would want the takeaway to be, I think. And so I really liked that. And I feel like Aiden was petulant and kind of controlling and angry. And there wasn't any room at all for Carrie's doubts about the marriage, which means that he's not the right man for her. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, he was not the right man for her.
So I'm not that excited that he's going to be back. I wish that they would just let her move on. There was
but he was attractive... in the movie in the second.
No,
part.
I know, and
yeah.
In the second movie he's in, the movie's so terrible.
My God,
it's a crime against humanity. So we can never revisit that. But I have to say, when I was watching the first season of And Just Like That, and they had a very attractive character actor playing Big's brother. Which again, I still haven't finished the last episode, so I don't know. I thought, maybe this is going to be a thing where Carrie just keeps it in the family. Because, they were never that close anyways to the rest of Big's family. And maybe this will be like an avenue forward for her where, it's just a different life, a little sidestep to the, no, we have to come back with Aiden. Why?
But so you haven't watched, then I can't give the spoiler of what happened.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, the last episode I haven't watched yet.
Yeah, okay. Well, she hooks up with someone, but, I can't say who.
Fair enough.
I only watched the first couple of episodes of the latest series, and I stopped watching because I just felt that Kim Cattrall not being on the show was too gaping a hole, and it didn't feel right. It didn't feel.
Yeah, now we're burying the lead because that's where this conversation started off camera, so to speak. That Kim Cattrall is
huge
going
news.
To... Huge news. This will be old for everybody. And if it's new to you,
by next week.
Yeah, by next week.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. We're just very excited about it. I don't know what they offered her, but it had to be a lot of money.
But I mean, we'll still be talking about it next week, probably, because it's so major. It's so major.
Honestly, I am so thrilled because one, Kim Cattrall, get that money.
Yeah,
I'm so excited for her to get that money. She deserves that money. But also, like the way that they apparently like her conditions for filming, I love the firmness of this boundary for her. Like she was not filming a scene opposite the three other women, and she did not film when Michael Patrick King was on set.
Ooh,
so
yes,
those were her conditions, and I love it.
Woo. And you had to know, she had to know that would just add an extra layer of drama onto the whole thing that didn't need any drama at all already.
But this is the chef's kiss of drama.
Right?
This is Kim Cattrall giving fan service. Like, outside of the money, there's no reason for her to do this. Like, she's fine.
And she had said pretty definitively that she would never do it again. Yep. And Sarah Jessica Parker had also kind of said she wasn't interested in having Kim Cattrall on the show. So
can you imagine the back scene, like the behind the scenes negotiations that went on to make this happen?
Yeah, but like, how do you think they made it happen if she has no scenes with the other three? Like, what is the point?
They've had her living in London. They've had her living in London.
Yeah, it's really easy to Zoom call from London and it's just her end. And then have the other three have to react to her like recording.
And you know what they've done
whatever.
Though? I feel like, and I could be wrong, and I didn't read the same article you did. I just knew she was coming back, so you can fix this for me. But I did watch the whole series, and one of the things that, when you watch the old series, is we all respect and love Samantha so much for her, just the way she lives her life. She's unapologetic. She's not judgmental. She'll stick up for you. Anything you need, she is there for you. And what do they do to her in this series is they make her mad at Carrie for doing something.
Oh, I know. It's ridiculous.
And it's such a disservice to that character who never did that, who always was you called her up with something and she's like, where do you need me? And then they do that to her. So I feel like, I don't know if I'm right, but I feel like she's kind of like, I owe something to the fans of Samantha.
Maybe, yeah. I didn't see anything like that, but honestly, I wouldn't be that surprised if like that was part of it. I also just feel like they did such disservice. It was horrible what they did with Samantha's character. I mean, I do think there's a little bit of fan service just in the fact that she's so tired of Carrie's nonsense that she's like, hard out, guys. I gotta go.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Peacing out to London, and I can't do it anymore. And I say this as someone who, like, I don't actively dislike Carrie. I think Carrie's fine. I mean, she's self-obsessed and not always like the best, but she shows up most of the time for her friends. And who among the four characters isn't a little bit self-obsessed? That's why we enjoy them, because like we're living that sort of like, it's okay to like care about yourself and put yourself first kind of thing, But I just feel like we know the great stories of like how Archie Punjabi and
Margolis,
the star of The Good Wife, Juliana Margulies, yeah. How they hated each other so much that they didn't film the final scene in the same, like they had to like split screen them and then pair them together in post. Like that is like a legendary sort of like the people watching the show. Like I can't remember if I watched it at the time or if I watched it after, but like everyone watching it was just like, this looks weird. And then like some sleuthy folks like did a bit of a sort of try to break down the scene. And they're like, oh, it's because they didn't film them together. Like at no point are they in the anyway. And then
how much can you hate someone that you just can't go to work and do that? Like it's can so you imagine? Beyond.
Like, yeah. Well, and also like when you're making like that much money, right? Like it's well, and I have to say that it I don't know anything about the situation, but I have to blame Juliana Margulies. Like I just think that's got to be where the blame lies because she held most of the power in that scenario. So anyway, and I know it's happened in at least one or two other in the Fast and the Furious when like Vin Diesel and The Rock can't be in the same, like they couldn't be in the same shots by the time it came to the end.
That makes sense.
Really? I didn't hear about that.
I can feel that. That's a lot of ego.
I thought it was just because they were both like look too similar or something. So it would be confusing.
Bald, muscular men have really got a lot to thank the Fast and Furious franchise for, I gotta say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't see those bald, swole bros getting as much love anywhere else except I guess the gym in the Fast and the Furious franchise. Anyway, I am honestly like thrilled when I saw the little headline pop up somewhere in social media for me earlier today. I was like, oh, I guess I am watching season 2 for sure.
I've never watched a show I hate so much, and and everyone I know who has watched it, not one person has said they're watching it because they like it. Like not one.
I mean, I'm in the real minority where the most one thing of Sex and the City that I have watched the most is the first movie, and I just keep going back and like casually watching it once in a while because I don't know. It's easy. I know the characters enough. I don't want to invest in a rewatch of the TV show. And that movie is fine.
Yeah, I think the first movie holds up. Like again, it's just like it's just I really, 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 really hate all the Chris Noth stuff that came out. And there's a book that I haven't read yet, but I am very excited to. And it came out it's coming out it came out either a week ago or coming out in June. And I should look it up so that I can talk about it with a little bit. I'll look it up for next week so I can talk about it with more eloquence.
Yeah, let's do a part 2 of this conversation.
Part 2 of this conversation. It's about monstrous men and the art that they make and how we interact with it and what our choices are.
Is this a Hannah Gadsby lecture?
I mean,
it's yes, there is a Hannah Gadsby lecture for sure about that. They've done that for sure. But this is a full book that's supposed to be amazing, and I just haven't read it yet because I think it only came out like in the last week or so.
Yeah, I mean you're right. It does his performance in the movie does drag it down. It is. Mm-hmm. But the movie also features Jennifer Hudson being super charming.
Yeah. And the big and beautiful costumes. Beautiful costumes.
Yeah, the wedding dress. The Vivienne Westwood wedding dress. Yeah. Then like the fantasy apartment she gets with the huge closet, custom made. Like it's just it's got all the elements you kind of want out of a Sex and the City movie.
And you get like you get 2 really wonderful scenes that have stuck with me for years. Is the confrontation between Carrie and Miranda in that really beautiful restaurant on Valentine's Day with all the heart balloons. Like it's just like perfect setting. And then you get the really wonderful scene of Charlotte confronting Big. And she's pregnant. And she's screaming at him about how, she rooted for him and defended him. And then he did this. And like thinking about the sort of we don't really talk about it that much. And it's not that she was saying, oh, you were my friend and you like ruined everything. But ultimately that is kind of what she's saying, is that like our partners end up enmeshed in our tight friend groups usually, you know, to a certain extent. And like if a person, you know, screws over another person as badly as he did in this instance, you know, he's hurting Carrie and ruining her life to a certain extent. He's also causing hurt to like this whole group of people who love Carrie so much, who have been friends with him, who have dealt with his hot nonsense for years. And I just love that we have like the movie makes space for her to like scream that at him and then drop a bunch of water from her water breaking on his foot.
Yes, exactly. And then off to have the baby. Yep.
Honestly, like what a revenge move is just like dropping all your body fluids on a man you're yelling at in the middle of the street on the Upper East Side. I love it. That's
classic.
Like
a classic.
Classic.
Anyway. Yeah, like I mean, I just find that movie is just like so moving because they stick up so hard for Carrie after, you know, she gets left at the altar. And I don't know. That's what makes seeing the latest series even more like I can't even understand what's going on because, like, they're so fiercely best friends that it seems utterly unacceptable that they can, you know, have this life and are continuing without the, like, Kim Cattrall.
Yeah. That's one of the only things that stood out to me in the first 2 episodes is that, like, what I liked, the only thing really that I liked, was that, you know, the realness of like Miranda and Charlotte immediately coming up with a co-sleeping schedule with Carrie so that she's not alone in the bed. And like that felt very real to me and like very best friendsy. And then at the very least, Samantha, you know, sent flowers and they gave that like at least a tiny moment of something, you know? And but then I don't know. I feel like that show kind of had to go off the rails because then with the like tragic loss of Willie Garrison in the middle of filming, and like that was.
And then they just at least they sent him off to Japan or something. I think, right?
I know, but they just send Stanford off into like Nothingville, and like I don't know what they're gonna do with season 2 and how they're gonna handle that. Like I don't know. It just I think season 1 was like quite a mess. They also did huge amounts of disservice they added several characters who are women of color and people of color and did a lot of disservice to those characters. And I'm hoping that there's some rectifying in season 2. We'll see. But, and I don't know, the messy misgendering stuff and like pronouns and making Charlotte's kid this like anyway all of it was a bit much.
It was trying very, 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 very hard and missed in a lot of ways,
but so many ways.
Do you think I'm just gonna skip over the like first season and then wait for you to tell me about the second season and decide if I'm gonna watch it or not?
That's honestly a great idea.
Yeah, you're not gonna miss anything. Yeah.
And if you watched the first 2 episodes of the first season, you could probably just pick up with like like if you wanted to episode 5 and 6 or 6 and 7 if 2 ends up being good enough, then I can tell you which episodes you can skip.
Were there that many I watched? I hate watched like 10 hours of my life. 8.
I think 8.
Wow. 80 hours of my life were just spent in hatred.
Don't think about it too hard.
We're having a great pivot. We're gonna go
real natural.
So natural.
Yeah.
But yeah, the longest intro we've ever done, the preamble. If this is a part you normally skip, haha, people. But honestly, like love to like go from something that's like so complicated and kind of hard to like into talking about something that I could really like almost not have loved more. And I'm going to make this like a regular yearly watch for myself going forward.
Wow.
Yeah, I can see that.
I know, right? My name's Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And you're listening to Pop This. And welcome, friends. Episode 2 of Wedding Month.
Woo!
What a time.
Throw some confetti or some rice or whatever.
Last week we kicked it off with a rather violent wedding movie. Shotgun Wedding with Jennifer Lopez.
Nary a beheading in this movie at all.
This is a complete opposite situation in terms of wedding movies.
You know what? Both wedding movies, though, lacked kissing. So that's kind of, I like this as a theme going forward.
Oh, wow. It's
wedding movies with no kissing.
Yeah, no real, like, I mean, I guess sort of implied romance or lots of steely burning gazes or something, I guess.
Only in this one. The other one was like literally just people on fire.
Yeah.
This one, though, I love it. I'm dancing in my heart. We're talking about Bride and Prejudice. I have never seen this film.
I have never heard of this film.
Really? I saw this
film
when it came out, but it's been like that was the last time. And I remember quite liking it, but on the second viewing I was like, wow, that is a really solid movie. Like,
it is so good.
So good. Like, it's got everything I like in a movie. It was all there. I had good laughs. I felt sad. I felt all the things you're supposed to feel in a great musical rom-com.
Even though it was 2 hours long, Lisa?
I know, right? I managed. I think it was 151. So I was looking at it, and I think, I managed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that given that this movie is done by, a direct Gurinder Chadha, who's did Bend It Like Beckham, like before this movie, that it is so kind of not known because it has, big star in it, has big director. Why haven't we watched it or heard of it besides Lisa before?
Well, I know that I hadn't watched it because I just, like, for the most part, I don't watch a lot of, like, Jane Austen adaptations, like, a lot of, like, Jane Austen films. Like, I've done a few, but just not a ton. And I love Bend It Like Beckham, but I guess I realized that I haven't been a, like, Gurinder Chadha, like, completist. And that's on me. And she most recently did Blinded by the Light, a journalist and his love of Bruce Springsteen. I'm not like the biggest Bruce Springsteen person, so I didn't really pay attention much to that. But I gotta say, like, I am mad at myself for missing out on Bride and Prejudice until this moment.
I know, me too. We've seen so many terrible, like, rom-coms when this could easily have been in regular rotation for the last, 20 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's got all the things. Like, I love a fierce lead who is calling out, like, sort of imperialist nonsense, sexism, classism. Like, it's actually one of my favorite things. Jerkism.
Yeah.
Is one of my favorite things to watch, like, a cool, interesting feminist woman put a unworthy man in his place. This movie also then gives me that and singing and dancing.
Yeah.
Plus, some of the most beautiful clothes I've ever seen.
And the most beautiful people I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's almost too much. It's almost, I gotta say, a little too much.
But it does have a dull as dishwater white
Mr.
man.
Darcy, yeah.
Mr. Darcy.
Yeah.
What nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, the kind of thing that stood out is just that Martin Henderson is not my favorite iteration of Mr. Darcy that I've seen, and also not much chemistry with Aishwarya Rai.
Which is wild because she's incredible.
Yeah.
Everything that is, like, sort of within her vicinity comes alive, except him. Like the deadest, which is so, so did you guys watch this? This was absolutely fascinating to me, actually. Did you watch the afterwards, like the credits where they're dancing and
I love that? Yeah,
dancing and singing.
Yeah,
like Martin Henderson or whatever his name is. I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
He's having the best time in the after credit sequence. He actually seems charming and interesting and fun. And I was like, where was that guy in this movie? Because like in this role, he mishandles everything stunningly.
Yeah, he's not really making me swoon, which is the whole point of the whole Mr. Darcy role, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, exactly. And you don't ever get a sense about like why Lolita would even remotely be interested.
Yeah. You get her waking up from a nightmare where he basically like traps her in a monsoon in a wedding gown, and like it's a nightmare betrothal.
Yeah, so like to me that is like the thing about this movie. Like I don't understand why these two characters would be romantically involved, because they seem to have no chemistry, and there seems to be no reason that Lolita would change her mind about him.
It also makes me think that Colin Firth must feel very insulted to go, this is what you thought was my equivalent? Because technically he's played Mr. Darcy twice now.
Yeah, that's another thing that I had not realized in all of the times I have watched Bridget Jones' Diary and actually read the book a few times when I was very young. I had not fully understood that it's an adaptation, basically, of Pride and Prejudice.
You didn't?
What?
Even with his name being Mr. Darcy?
That's how dim. I thought that was a loving sort of like cheeky tribute. Like, neat, how cute, how fun. No. That's how dim I am, guys. So just in case you ever thought to yourself, she seems smart, I'm not.
We'll give you a pass.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was actually watching this film that made me think, oh, yeah, this is the plot of Bridget Jones.
Are you serious?
Several levels.
You didn't realize it until like a few days ago in the year 2023?
Last night.
Wow. That's a pretty big one.
That's a huge one.
That's a pretty big
Haven't we talked about Bridget Jones on this podcast?
Yes, but we never talked about it in context of it being like a retelling of Pride and Prejudice.
I think it's probably because we just inferred that everybody knew that.
Well, here I am, late to the party, friends.
Wow.
Now, I think that this is possibly because, and here's where the confession deepens.
Oh, no.
I've never seen or read Pride and Prejudice.
What did you just say you read? Oh, Bridget Jones' Diary.
Yeah, that's the embarrassing part. Yeah.
I thought you meant you read Pride and Prejudice when you were younger.
Nope, I read Bridget Jones' Diary when I was younger. Yeah. It's honestly, it's truly startlingly embarrassing that like, and it's fine. I'm happy to like own this nonsense that I am doing. Like, but like, yeah, oh my God, I actually killed Lisa. She had to put herself on mute because she's choking to death. Anyway, I just like, yeah, I've watched Emma. I've watched Sense and Sensibility. I've read Sense and Sensibility. Pretty sure I've read Emma. Yes, I've seen Clueless, and I understand that Clueless is Emma. I get that. But for whatever reason, Pride and Prejudice was just this part of the Austen world that I have...
The most famous part of the Austen world.
Uh-huh. Yeah. No, I love to take a back seat to the most famous because, that's...
There's been like 20 adaptations made.
Yep. Never seen a single one until Bride and Prejudice. Except that I had seen Bridget Jones' Diary
numerous times, and it still never occurred to you. Then you never overheard. You never thought his name was Mr. Darcy. It didn't. I guess if you didn't.
No, I knew that. Again, I thought it was just like Helen Fielding being like, "I'm going to be cheeky here," and I mean, I understood that there were like elements because like I'm enough in pop culture that I knew that, but like she doesn't seem like she doesn't have a bunch of siblings. They aren't trying to marry off like a whole house full of sisters. Like there were so many missing elements that they didn't go with. The only thing that they truly lift and there's no like, yeah, the only thing they truly lift is like sort of the triangle between Bridget, Darcy, and Hugh Grant.
Wickham. Yeah,
Wickham.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's not called Wickham in
no.
Bridget Jones.
No.
Anyway, just saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
So here you were. My guess is here you were watching Bride and Prejudice, and you were thinking to yourself, if I'm correct, this is just like Bridget Jones' Diary.
Well, that's the thing where I had a minute, and I was like, huh. And I thought about it. I was like, which one came first? And then and I didn't look it up though, and I realized, oh, Bridget Jones' Diary just like lifted is another adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, and so that was like, I didn't actually have to check it. Like I understood what had copied what or whatever, but it was sincerely the I'm gonna say minimum. Oh, you know when I clued in specifically?
When?
Wasn't until she met Wickham on the beach. Because they needed that third person. Like it had to be the third person. And so I needed that triangle to be complete.
Wow. And so did you have a moment like Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense where suddenly all of these things
everything's connected
and you went, oh my God.
I mean, yeah, to a certain extent, for sure. Just thinking about how like, but I think I was already just so like in love with this character of Lolita and this performance and this adaptation of it, like this setting for it. I was just like, and because I also think there's like something extremely cool and subversive and fresh about the challenges to imperialism and British colonizers on India and the issues of class. Like I know Austen was always exploring class, but that was sort of like within this context of, you know, England. And so I really love what Gurinder Chadha does in taking it and making it her own.
But perhaps we should talk about the background and synopsis of this movie.
Although some of us shouldn't have to tell you the synopsis of the movie because we know it's Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice.
In all honesty, if I'd read the background, if like, look, I just really honestly don't recall there being a ton of press about Bridget Jones being an adaptation of Pride and Prejudice.
Clearly.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one.
Okay, great. No, that's fine. I'm just saying, like, for me, it was like a real blank spot. Anyway, not a big deal. Let's background this. I love us tonight, you guys. I love us tonight. It's amazing.
I can read the background.
Great.
For her 2004 passion project, Bride and Prejudice, writer-director Gurinder Chadha, who also directed Bend It Like Beckham, set out to bridge that gap and make Bollywood accessible to Western audiences. And she did so by embracing her own diverse cultural heritage. Raised in London after being born in Kenya to Indian parents, Chadha decided to blend the ultimate British novel, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, with the filmmaking style she'd grown up loving. The result is a joyful, goofy, musical, romantic comedy with some surprisingly weighty ideas lurking just beneath its glitzy surface. And that's from Carolyn Seed at the AV Club.
Can I just say that this surprisingly weighty ideas lurking just beneath its glitzy surface is, from my understanding now, a deep misunderstanding of like the initial text that it's based on, since like it's always had these like weighty ideas lurking just below the surface. I feel like this is one of those glib sentences that like film critics put in and actually sort of like show themselves as not fully understanding what they've watched. Because it's not surprisingly weighty ideas. Like, this is absolutely what it should be doing the whole time. And of course, it's what Gurinder Chadha is doing. Anyway, sorry, I'm now mad.
Based on your understanding of Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, not my understanding of Bridget Jones' Diary.
I just want to say, before we get to our synopsis, that I'm looking now at the Wikipedia entry for Bridget Jones' Diary, and the fourth line says, it is a reinterpretation of Jane Austen's 1813 novel, Pride and Prejudice. That is the fourth line.
That's great, but we didn't have Wikipedia when the movie came out, Lisa.
Oh, okay, fair.
To be fair.
Okay.
But yeah, we have actually talked about the film on the podcast. Yeah. I just don't remember just talking about that. Anyway. You know what? I'm gonna just take the synopsis because it's my punishment. Mrs. Bakshi's main goal in life is to see her daughters, plural, married off to good men with fortunes. When eldest daughter Jaya falls for a rich Indian man, Balraj, Mrs. Bakshi turns her focus onto her middle daughter, Lalita. Distant relative Mr. Cole shows up and she throws Lalita at him, but Lalita is not interested. She's unwillingly, but also kind of unwittingly, she's unwillingly fallen for the American businessman that came to visit with Balraj, William Darcy, and Lalita clash as he doesn't understand her culture and seems to look down on her. As he spends more time around Lalita, though, he starts to learn to appreciate her way of life. And this is from Drama with a Side of Kimchi.
Which is a great name for her blog.
Yeah, great blog name. That's wonderful. I feel like we've already talked about how we feel, but about this movie, which is, I think, great. But were you surprised by anything on your rewatch, Lisa?
I think I forgot how lovely and cozy the family life is, and I think I felt that in different adaptations of Jane Austen's, Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice, that they really that family structure is really important. And then I thought it was really interesting that Darcy points that out, that about family and how he doesn't have family. And I thought they just did a really good job of creating this really lovely group of people all together in this house, really love each other and really care about each other. And I think that I had forgotten how I love cozy films. And I think that this one really had a really cozy film feel.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really nice. And that is actually the only point at which Darcy becomes bearable.
Oh, okay.
Right? He communicates affection for a family structure, and that's his turning point when I think Lolita starts to sort of appreciate him.
Yeah, and
I love a rom-com that takes you to different locations around the world. I like it, starting off in one city, changing into a different city, going to London for a stop. I love when they throw in travel with a rom-com.
Yeah.
And Alexis Bledel shows up randomly.
Marsha Mason shows up, great stage actress. What the heck?
Yeah, it's kind of, I agree with, I like the travel a lot. I love that they're in Goa, which has always looked to me like a very beautiful kind of paradisey place. But I love Lolita giving the context for what sort of Goa represents to it being a playground for rich tourists and stuff like that. And again, reminding him that not everyone is rich the way that he has been born and raised. And that's, but I also love that suddenly it goes from being what seems like a normal beachside hotel, that's fancy and beautiful, to what can only be described as Coachella meets Burning Man with Ashanti performing. I was just loving it. And Carlos was reminding me that beach raves in film were a really big thing in the early 2000s. So maybe that's part of it, but it looked like such a fun piece to film, and maybe I'm wrong, but honestly, it looked like such a fun piece to film. The chemistry she has with Wickham, the guy who plays Wickham, is quite good, even though he has that air of sleaze, and we then get confirmed later on that he's gross. He's super predatory. And although I gotta say, another point not in favor of Darcy, if you know that this guy preys on underage girls, and you know that Lolita's got 2 younger sisters, don't you want to maybe say something?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Although in the context of Pride and Prejudice, I don't know if I think he would just be a rake, not necessarily a predator for young girls.
I get that, but like if they're gonna put it in this kind of like more contemporary, still fantasy kind of setting, like I was just like, you can't even in 2004. No, I guess the other thing we have to point out is that it is a Miramax film, and Harvey himself makes a cameo
I saw
at
that.
the end.
Yeah, I was noticing that. There he was dancing around. Yeah,
So fun, gross side fact that credit to Carlos for looking this up last night. The woman who plays Darcy's girlfriend, Georgie,
the blonde.
The blonde.
Yeah.
Ended up getting married to Harvey Weinstein after this film.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yep.
Holy cow. That's something I wouldn't even have thought to look that up.
Yeah. Ick. And now they have been divorced for a while. But she is now with Adrian Brody.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Okay. Everyone really keeps it close. And then Adrian Brody's ex is Chris Hemsworth's current.
It's Hollywood is a messy, gross place, you know?
Yeah, wow.
Just seems like it's always best to circle broadly around it. Even when it's like Hollywood with Bollywood and lots of filming locales. Yeah, I did not like seeing Harvey Weinstein.
No, I thought it was him too, and I had to go really close to them going, is that really? Because it's just so jarring now.
Yeah.
To see him in any way at all, or think about him in any way. So,
yep.
Wow. Okay. So there's that now to think about.
Well, I mean, just back to the sort of rescuing her younger sister part from, what's his name?
Wickham.
Wickham. Like, they made it in this movie like such a dire situation that they had to like go on an immediate chase around the city to rescue her. So I do think like, they changed the story like that much to make him seem like a dangerous predator.
I think we think
for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they treat it with the seriousness that they do in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, that's certainly not always what was happening. I just wish, in the same way that like Lolita calls him out on everything else, it might have been worth he did this to your sister and you didn't think to like just tell me the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Like, had every opportunity. And just chose.
Well,
like, did he think he was protecting his sister? I don't know. It just didn't seem like that good a reason.
Even in Pride and Prejudice, even in any of the adaptations, Bridget Jones' Diary, there's always this unwillingness to give all the facts straight away, because then we'll have the story's over. So there's always that. There's always that. I'll give you a tiny bit of information, and then, like you say, wouldn't it have just been better to tell me all of this now? However, due to stories wanting to be more than 4 chapters, I remember seeing a funny video. Remember when everyone was into watching College Humor videos?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and this was one if, like, how many stories would be ruined with a cell phone? Like The Notebook?
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
I just like...
I've been sending you all these letters. Oh, I'll ask my mom for them.
I just always like... in these kinds of cases... And again, I guess I'm probably just like watching from like a 2023 lens where we're thinking about like, how we feel an obligation to like warn people about predators. Like he just like says all this stuff, but says nothing at all at the same time. And it would be so easy to just be like, hey, he knocked up my sister and she was 16.
Mm-hmm.
That's gross.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, anyway.
Yeah.
Again, Rory Gilmore deserves better.
I was actually shocked that Alexis Bledel, signed on for such a small, unimportant role in 2004, like when she's sort of
pretty well known.
Of in demand and well known. Yeah. And I wondered if she had a bigger part that they cut down.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, like, that's the thing about this movie, though, is that I wasn't cheering for Mr. Darcy, and I felt like I wasn't cheering for anybody, like
except Lolita.
But like, at the end of the movie, even on the elephant, when they get married with the just married sign on the butt of the elephant, I was like, I don't think that's gonna last. Those two,
yeah, not those two.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's going to be very fiery.
Well, I think
they're going to fight a lot, I feel like.
Yeah.
But like she's too smart and too good for him. And like
yeah.
I you don't want to feel that way, I think, from what I understand. Like with I can't even believe it. But like with Bridget Jones' Diary, like you kind of understand how the next film begins and they've broken up because that seems realistic. But you're still rooting for them. Like you're happy when they get together, even though Colin Firth looks like the worst kisser in the world. You're happy when they are standing there and she's hugging him in her underwear in the street and he got her a diary or whatever. You know, like you're happy for them. Even though he did absolutely invade her privacy, but whatever. We've got some issues, but this movie, I was genuinely happy for Jaya and her husband. I love Naveen Andrews with all my heart.
Oh, there's a juicy new article about all the bad things that went on the Lost set.
It's part of a book that is called Burn It Down, and I'm very excited about that book. It comes out June 1st or 2nd or something like that, and I think it's going to be amazing, actually, like for sure. But and obviously, like the article itself details like horrific conditions in the writing room and on set, and racism and toxic workplace behavior, and but I will say it was still nice to see Naveen Andrews, and just I don't know necessarily of any problematic stuff around him. I just enjoy him so much. I really like him as an actor. I think he's so, like, I would have loved to see him play Mr. Darcy.
Oh, interesting.
That's
like
true.
That would have been so good.
Yeah.
He's just like, I don't know. I just really, really enjoy him. And I think he's got a lot of like charisma and hasn't had necessarily like all the chances that he deserves to sort of like display that, you know?
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know. I love how much this, just like Gurinder Chadha's vision for this film is such a love letter to like, it's just such a love letter to like, I don't know, just like the joy and beauty of Bollywood and India as like, I mean, it's a huge, massive, massive place. And so there's tons of different locales that she could have sort of situated it in. But she chooses sort of a smaller city, a small town, kind of like it has a bit of a sort of kind of like a storybook vibe feeling. Like it's busy and there's chaos and stuff. But like the color palette for everything is so vivid and beautiful. And
it's beautiful.
I just like could not get enough watching all the colors. And I thought, like, how has this not been adapted into a stage production? Like this is ready almost, you know? Like there's minor adjustments that you would need to make to like make it sort of a musical on a Broadway stage, and it would be so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a nice rom-com wedding movie. I can find no fault with it. I found some of the English music numbers a little corny.
Oh, they're super corny.
Like no bride, no wife, no bride, no is it no life? No wife, no life? No life,
yeah,
no wife?
No.
Yeah. That one was really funny though, at the very least.
Yeah. And I felt it was like a little bit long. And yeah, as we've discussed a lot, I didn't like the Mr. Darcy and I wasn't rooting for him.
Yeah, it is a little long. I thought it sagged a tiny bit in the middle. Like there's like, it just could have been a little bit tighter. And as much as I enjoy the travel, I was very confused by how they could go to the first 2 days of this wedding and then go to Goa and then come back and they don't finish the wedding of like whoever they're supposed to be there for, like the wedding that kicks off the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. No, I noticed that
like there's
too.
There's some timeline stuff that's happening that I don't quite understand. But like, I also just think about like, so Aishwarya Rai, this is her English speaking debut.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, like, she's so good. Like, she is
such
honestly
like a triple threat. Yeah. I was really impressed by her dancing, actually.
Yeah. Well, she was a dancer and a singer, and I think like you can see that in her performance, but like also just like she like just gives Lolita so much intelligence that makes it even harder to figure out why this Darcy would at all be compelling.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, it's time to decide if we think this movie pops, and if it, as Andrea Warner mentioned earlier, it's entering everybody's regular rom-com rotations.
Oh yeah, 100%, especially around
absolutely
Bride
pops.
Season.
Yeah,
absolutely pops. I love it. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite wedding films that I think that we've ever done. Now that said, I don't love rom-coms usually, so I mean, this is a big win for me.
Yeah, I say this one pops.
Yeah, big pops.
Yay! Oh my god, you guys. We all liked a film during wedding season.
Yay! It's a wedding miracle.
It is. Like, this doesn't actually, like, I mean, I'd have to go back and look at it. I'm sure it's happened before, but like, it's rare.
Yeah.
However, let's celebrate these victories and move ahead into more things we love. AG, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm going to recommend a song this week. Ray Spoon has released a cover of a Beverly Glenn Copeland song called Ever New.
Yay!
As part of the Polaris. You know how they do those cover sessions?
Yeah.
And it just came out yesterday, and I'll post it. It's the most beautiful, haunting song. Ray Spoon's voice is just, I just love listening to their voice. It's just, I find it so compelling and beautiful. But yeah, it's a great cover, and they did like a whole session, like video to go with it. So I'll post a link to that from YouTube.
That's awesome. I love Ray. I'm so glad that they're like healing from, they were dealing with like cancer and these like really difficult complications, and they were, sort of, I think, kind of like dealing with hospital stuff for like 2 years and navigating the like Canadian health system as a non-binary queer person. They talked a lot about that and the stuff that they faced in that. And I'm so happy that we have new music from Ray that's like also a cover of Beverly Glenn Copeland. That's so great.
Yeah, it's great. You have to listen to it. It's amazing.
I can't wait. Lisa, what about you?
Yeah, so I bought a new cookbook. My favorite food in the world is Mediterranean cuisine. That is my most favorite. Just throw some yogurt and some lemons on it and some garlic, and I am good to go.
It's supposed to be the healthiest, right?
It is. Not probably what I like to eat, but yeah, that sounds about right. Anyway, one of the most famous cookbook authors is Yotam Ottolenghi, and I bought the new, or not, it's not new, it's Simple, it's called. And every recipe in here is only 10 ingredients or less. And that was what they wanted it to do. So when they did the test kitchen, they just only 10 ingredients or less. And I've already had the lentils with eggplant, tomatoes, and yogurt, and it is so delicious. And I'm probably just going to work my way through seaweed spaghetti and sesame salad with tahini dressing, rice noodle salad with cucumber and poppy seeds, baked rice with confit tomatoes and garlic. It is so delicious.
Nice. That does sound tasty. And now I'm extremely hungry.
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah, sorry about
Lisa.
that. Yeah.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, we didn't get any wedding food, did we?
Well, we saw like a little bit of food in the marketplaces, but we didn't get a lot. No. Although we did get to hear the Darcy character talk in a racist way about quote unquote deli belly. Anyway.
Yeah.
Boo Darcy.
Yeah.
God, boo Darcy. Anyway, I would like to recommend, because so to be fair, I haven't yet read the book, but I know it's going to be amazing. I know the writer, and AG, you and I attended her book launch over the weekend, and just big shout outs to our friend Angela Starrett. Her new book is out now. It's called Unbroken: My Fight for Survival, Hope, and Justice for Indigenous Women and Girls. It is through Greystone Books. And so, I mean, just full disclosure, Angela's my friend, and also Greystone Books is one of my publishers. But that is not why I'm recommending these things. I'm recommending it because this book is, I know, going to be amazing. I'm just going to briefly read you the little sort of description here. As a Gitsan teenager navigating life on the streets, Angela Starrett wrote in her journal to help her survive and find her place in the world. Now an acclaimed journalist, she writes for major news outlets to push for justice and to light a path for Indigenous women, girls, and survivors. In her brilliant debut, Starrett shares her memoir alongside investigative reporting into cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada, showing how colonialism and racism led to a society where Starrett struggled to survive as a young person and where the lives of Indigenous women and girls are ignored and devalued. So I'm sure it will be a beautiful read, a story that's difficult to hear, and but an important read, and I'm just so proud of her for writing it. So well done, Angela. Pick up Unbroken in your bookstores or online.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I've ordered the book because she sold out of books at her book launch. Like, when do you see that happen? There were like huge stacks on the table, and I was like, I'll just pick one up on the way out. And no, like 3/4 of the way through the party, I look over the table and they're all packed up because they're sold out. And I was like, darn it, I'm going to have to order it. So I have. And so but I have to wait now.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. You can hang out with us online, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You could rate and review us 5 stars.
5 stars. Like, as I like to say, our 5-star general here, Andrea Gin, who co-hosts and produces this podcast. A big thank you to you every week. And a big thank you to all of you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.